We are here right now, you and I, us, breathing. We are relaxed to the core and yet acutely alert. This is from where we move outwards to doing anything. This is our home, the only one that we know right now, seated here in this body, just here, amidst all its different flows of sensation. And this is what I'll be referring to in this talk interchangeably as the sense of being or the sense of self. Cats teach us this with their awesome ability to shift gear from total restfulness to totally focused action without a single misstep and with the speed of lightning. So can our little kids, even our own humankind. For now, let's look at this delightful little 2-year-old Sufi, who is now 10 and still gloriously drawing. Daughter of a friend. What a mystery this is. This total engaged making of marks, this utter self-absorption. From where does this impulse come? From where do those lines originate? And the miracle is, it's not only she who is drawing those lines, but those very lines in turn are drawing her, are creating her, forming and shaping her being with zillions of star-like explosions, enriching and strengthening her brain's neural synapses. It's a powerful act of mutually directed double creation. And the best of all art, all creative languaging, is precisely that. What you're creating is at every moment creating you right back, whether you're the creator yourself or a passionate participant. This powerful magic happens even when you're in the presence of works of art created eons ago. It still has the power to rivet you right here and right now. But look at what's happened to us after we've grown up. What exiled us from our sense of being, and why are we so fragmented? Competitiveness is a major trigger. Competition is based on comparison. In comparing, what happens is that our ideal of what's good or perfect is dislocated to outside of ourselves, and it's no longer within. And this is a grievous spiritual error, and perhaps the only one. Because it fractures our sense of being upon which everything else is built. It undercuts the only capital that we are all given equally by birth. It disorients the only compass that we have to negotiate the challenging ocean that's this world. As a result of this, we become perpetually stressed, anxious, depressed, and totally disoriented. We lose our capacity to simply be where we are and who we are. If we weren't born this way, how and why did we get to be this way? Our schools are the hotbeds of competition, this market world's microcosm. Our sense of being is fractured early on, even as we are children, because 1. We are heir to an iniquitous, unsustainable, and highly destructive system that runs on catering to the greed of a few and not to the life-sustaining needs of the many. 2. Our current systemic notion of prosperity is built over a millennia, thrives on this blind refusal to acknowledge our essential interconnectedness and interdependence with every other life form, from minerals to microbes to other mammals. Its mode has been variations of the old themes of conquest, plunder, exploitation, and extermination. And as its heirs, we are expected to perpetuate the same life-negating values that underpin the system. This same process informed the pompous agenda of civilizing the savages that our colonial masters took out on indigenous people and their ecologies the world over. The same mechanism is used to justify the pseudo-superior attitudes of the privileged of any denomination in the name of class, caste, gender, race, ideology, or religion. We are seeing all this every day now. We not only inhabit such a life-negating system of values, but are verily inhabited by them through various processes of habituation and acculturation to which we are choicelessly and aggressively subjected from our birth. Any stance and response repeated over and over, becomes habit. And this is an instinctual, energy-conserving shortcut by which the brain orders together sets of repeated stimuli and response. We are now conditioned and habituated systemically to stay afraid of the unknown, stay clear of the strange, to mistrust the unfamiliar. Socially or interpersonally, this could escalate into the dangerous malaise of othering, that is, discriminating against all who are not like us, who we feel are different from us, hating them because we fear them, and wanting to hurt or exterminate them for the same reasons. Within our lives, this engineered atrophy results in a crisis of another kind that strikes when we have attained to some or all of the goals that we have been trained to consider as desirable by significant authority figures in our growing years. What goes by the generic name midlife crisis is really that inner calling that urges you to take the risk that you cannot not take anymore. Because it suddenly hits you that not taking that risk is in itself the biggest risk. And that so-called risk, what is it? It is just the long postponed and direly needed self-reflective interrogation of who you are, what you are, and why you are who you are. It is also precisely at this time when a crisis is happening of a potential that can tip you back over to your innate creativity that every trickster in the existential crisis market pops up with your Instafix solutions. These range from substance peddlers to demagoguery vendors to godmen who hook your inner calling to interrogation to a brand new psychosomatic addiction and divert or block your way from flowing back to your original sense of being. With this, the sense of ease that being in touch with oneself gifts us exits from our existence, and this is the beginning of all disease. The heeding to the calls of the self, that is, creative thought, has the power to actually antidote, purge, and reverse disease before their physical manifestations. The nature of creation is such that it can proceed only through a series of destruction. Now, destruction of what? Of prejudices, literally meaning prior judgments. Prejudices sum up the nature of most of the accumulation that we are conditioned to calling knowledge, where knowledge is accepted as something that enters us from outside. This is knowledge in its commonly understood avatar of information, arivu in Malayalam. In fact, there is another form of knowing that is deeply somatic, non-fragmented, and that is accepting of a profound ecological interconnectedness. It abides in us as a deep genetic memory that resonates with certain shapes, sounds, forms, smells, tastes, colors, and textures. Most importantly, it instinctively reminds us that our sense of self abides not as isolated fragmented entities. It reminds us that our sense of self is only a mode of a certain universal conviviality that's spreading across particular bodies, types, genders, and even species, embraces them all respectfully in all their diversity and all their difference. This is the most important and central knowing. In Malayalam, this is Tiricharavu. This is the kind of knowledge that art affords in its highly enlivening, imaginative and creative avatar as insight. From there emerges authentic, courageous forms of languaging that are singularly attentive responses to the call of being. Art is that warning bell that restores our mode of engagement back to factory setting, back to an engagement that is open, equal, defenseless, total. Like that little girl you saw at the start, playfully wall-scrolling. The way she engages with her world is also the way, say, an excellent performer does, who, in mimicking, say, an animal, is not content with copying its outer gestures alone, but does so by entering into the feelings and motivation that informs that particular stance, by assuming its skin in a participation that's so raw and so total that their art is a form of becoming the animal itself, tracing the particular signature of its energies, the distinct feel it emits in a recording that preserves its intensity intact over time. It's from here that you create. From this location of engagement, from this participatory stance. It is to get here that you destroy your prior knowledge, habit, prejudice. That location, in both Malayalam and Sanskrit, I like to call Sahaja. Saha with ja, born. That is, it literally means born with, implying a stance that is relational by nature, uncalculated, creature, organic. In English, a close approximation would be the word empathy. Why a child's expressions are so fresh and so moving is because it's full of this unconscious, effortless Sahaja Bhava or empathy. Let's look at this drawing by my friend's son, 8-year-old Ravi, who learned recently that Pluto is no longer a planet. Look at the visual positioning that makes you feel the intense loneliness and sadness of a faraway little planet, summarily dropped from the solar system family for no fault of his. And worse, no one seems to understand, not even the cool dude's son who is sitting at the center. Now see what happens when a scientific fact is presented through a field of sensitive, empathic feeling. How unforgettable and powerful the fact now that it is imbued with what I call affect. As a stance, art offers us the creative chance to call out everything that stunts our capacity for compassion to self and to the other. Understood this way, art does not always mean that you have to necessarily be a great painter, sculptor, musician or whatever yourself. To simply cultivate the sensitivity to receive, respond and the readiness to reflect and vigorously interrogate yourself with feeling is enough. So please quit diffident questions about not having inborn gifts and talents. You could just as well plant a butterfly garden, raise food, educate someone, recycle your own waste, paint protest placards, start keeping a dream journal, take up a movement art, or just begin exercising your singing regularly in the shower. Just start. Because creativity is an expression of life's desire for itself. Accept the invitation to just be, and from there all the rest follows. Yet let me warn you, as a friendly wayfarer, that the bid to this freedom, from prejudice to authentic engagement, to the extent that you may choose to live it, inhabit and be inhabited by it, is a spiritually demanding challenge. But then it's like the old Malayalam saying about, the acerbic but goodness-packed gooseberries taste. Aadyam kayikum, pinna madhurikum. That is bitter at the start, but so sweet afterwards. It calls for the simple courage of saying, I'm afraid when you are, and I don't know when you don't, and yet find it in yourself to push on. Maybe you will have the support of a significant few others living around you, which means you're very lucky. It's also possible that you'll be supported just as well by the dead. And that's what referencing history does for you. Not as a boring academic endeavor, but as a search for one's true psycho-spiritual ancestors who grappled with problems similar to yours. If you're earnest, open and alert, trust me, they will come and find you with their words, sounds and images that somehow resonate just right with your vibe, plonk at gut level, changing you. Prick up your ears to pick up just that and let chronology come in afterwards. Let's learn to let go enough into letting a random line take us for a walk, to loosely quote the wonderful Paul Klee, who I consider one of my own earliest ancestors. Trust me, each time you seek it, thinking it hides from you, it will find you every time, springing right from within you before you ever even do. You didn't get me? Never mind, just try. Because such is creative languaging's strange power to constantly surprise. Thank you.